all just named on this stage, the same thing is happening in the States. And we have to connect our struggles. We have to be in community with each other. We have to talk to each other. And we have to do it at the grassroots level.
Thank you so much. Both the three of my panelists, Jacinta, Caro, and Breya. And the things that are coming is about connecting our struggle. And the thing also is coming is that movement has to be built from the ground, and investment has to be done from the ground, and that we can't also talk about sexual reproductive health and rights without linking it with GBV, because all these connections are also linking with gender-based violence. So I'd like to throw it back to the audience to hear if you have any questions towards my panel or any comment in terms of accessing sexual reproductive health and rights and GBV. And if there's anything from your movements or the movements you're involved that has worked in accessing or advancing this cause. So I'd like to throw it, if we have any person who wants to react. I can see a hand there. Please say your name, introduce yourself, and feel free to speak any language. Yeah.
So hi everyone.
You can stand up, we see you take the power, pussy power.
So my name is Lilian Awor. I'm an activist, I'm a feminist. So I'm in charge in advocacy for women and girls in my organization. So thank you for the great panelists that you have, Rachel. I've really learned about how America, they are doing organic organizing. So for me, I have there's a call I've gotten from my area, whereby a young woman now needs medical attention. So for us sitting down here, so how, learning from how America is organizing, how can we make our movement more stronger so that we are not pinned down by this document that it was printed and the government printed it out, so that they fight. You see, that document is above us. See, these cases are happening. Even right now it's happening. And safe abortion, it is happening. That's the reality. So what can we do? How can we combine our efforts so that we can save our young women in the informal settlement? So that's my concern. Yani nasikia tu tumbo inanikata hapa mahali nimesimama.
So, Lilia, can I push you a bit, maybe from also you are organizing and being that you're very vocal in the ground, because also it's about also learning and keeping and documenting our successes in the struggle. Would you be able to maybe tell us, because you're saying we need to organize, how do we need to organize? Can you give a suggestion? We know our problems. Can you give us...
Tuanzie mashinani. Ndio kesho ukipata mimba, tusikuchangie, si ndio? Unaenda tu hospitali unapata these services. So for me, niyo Rachel, if you can do that, mazee tutaokoa community zetu.
Thank you, Lilian. I can see you may release.
I will definitely take a minute. And my question is simple. How can we then foster a conversation about sexual reproductive health rights and services while being intentionally? And by the reason I'm saying intentionally is because I understand there's a lot of intention to make sure women are there, young girls and young mothers are there. How can we then progress that to LGBTQ persons, LGBTQ persons, transgender women, who are, by the way, in Kenya and other African countries, experiencing a lot of violence without knowing, because every time I'm in a feminist space, I see transphobia. Before I see everything else, I see transphobia first, and then I see biphobia, and then I see, queerphobia, and then I see non-binary phobia, all types of phobia of people invalidating your existence just because they feel like you need to explain who you are. And I feel like, just as Breya was saying, the one thing we are fighting for is, as long as you're the one who needs the services, we don't care who you are. You just want the services. Can you get the services and go? But how can queer people get those services without having to explain their existence as queer people? Thank you.
Thank you. Please. I can see how many hands have been? How many? 2? So you and then the last one. Okay.
Zilpa. I come from a point of understanding that for these policies to be documented, there are some law agencies or some members of parliament that we elected that sat down and approved it, right? So why don't we bring women leaders on board so that they can help us push for the policies? I think that will work best for feminists.
Thank you so much. Next.
I think this one in the front.
Yeah, she's also on the list.
Okay. I'm Terry Gaudensia, and my question is going to Lisa, if I'm not wrong. So, you say that a black woman in USA, she's not safe when she's pregnant. And also you've said when a black woman is in US, she cannot be able to access reproductive health. She can't be able to get the contraceptives because they are expensive. And yet, USA are the ones funding the contraceptive in Africa. So can you elaborate to me as to why they are funding the contraceptive in Africa, and yet if I'm in a USA, I can't access kindly?
I think.
Can you wait? Maybe we take the question and then we'll come to respond.
Okay, don't let me forget.
Okay. Thank you. Agneta?
Hello, everyone. My name is Agneta Asitwa, a filmmaker by profession, an activist, and also a feminist. My question goes to our beautiful representative for the KESWA. I like what you're doing, and when you were opening the 16 days of activism campaign, I saw you were well represented, and I was wondering, has the government finally recognized your work? And moving forward, now you've talked about documentation, and I'm thinking progressively speaking, in terms of documentation of your work, not only in Nairobi, how are we moving forward in terms of even going across the grassroots level? Are you being recognized there because the county government of Nairobi included you in their activity the other day? Is it the same at the grassroots levels?
Thank you. There's the last person there, Adus, and then my panel, be prepared.
Hi. Okay, my question is going to you again. I want to ask about the LGBT in ghetto, because us as LGBT, we do suffer because men, they don't understand us. They don't understand us totally. So we are being GBV'd in ghetto area because we are lesbians, you know. So a man will not understand you, like parents too. They don't understand what we are, because if you tell a parent you are a lesbian, you'll be beaten, you see. And they will not understand you because they want you to be married, and maybe you are not interested in men. So, and I was asking if there's somebody standing for ghetto girls, for those LGBT in ghetto, because we are being discriminated. Yeah, and there was a situation of my friend. She was a lesbian, and she was raped with the boys because she was a lesbian, and she refused to be dating. She refused to date another man because she was a lesbian. So I don't know if there's somebody who is standing for them in ghetto areas, because we are not being loved, or we are discriminated totally. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I see, is it the last one, Ados? The last one. And then Jacinta, maybe you can take this question. And then Breya, the one.
Maybe stand. I have a question. And what
could you
about...
please say your name and
my
your
name
organization?
My name is Faith Mwangi. I come from KPL, Kenya Peasants League. Now, as a champion for the children and the youth, which I've worked for like 10 years, I want to ask a question. What if we pick this topic about our sexuality, our bodies, who we are, with the children? Because if we start explaining to them about who they are and their bodies, they will be more pronounced later in life when they're youth, or when they are mothers and their fathers, or whatever they go, whichever direction they choose, they'll be able to stand and face the world as it is. But right now, we get a girl who is even confused whether she's pregnant or not, whether she can abort or not. She doesn't have that situation where she can decide for herself. We have situations where parents decide, now you need an abortion, because I don't know, as a mother, I don't want to be ashamed. Maybe you as a girl, you still want that baby. Or sometimes you don't even know whether you're being raped or abused. What if we pick that topic about sexuality with the children?
Thank you so much, Faith. Could you please clap for yourself for the audience who have asked questions? So I'll try and push it like to my panels because I know their expertise, the biasness of also working with all of them. Jacinta, I know also Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defender, you've been working, you have had cases around also LGBTQ being targeted in informal settlement. Could you please tell us what has CGHRD done in working with LGBTQ in informal settlements?
Okay, for CGHRD, we incorporate them in our own programs. We give the community the factual information about LGBTIQ. Even right now, in a place where our office is, that inclusive of Mathare, they are being accepted. And talking about what Lillian, although she did not ask a question, for me, I feel way forward, it's we stop as women or LGBTIQ, we stop dividing ourselves. Like I work for this GBV, I work for sexual reproductive health. If we want to win this war, every organization that believe in LGBTIQ or women, we should come together and form one coalition. We will win this war. But when we say, like, I work for water, I'm interested in LGBTIQ, I'm interested in power, we divide our power. But when we stand as one, because everything is interconnected. When you talk about financially, there's violence. When you talk about sexual reproductive health, there's violence, there's financial instability. But when we will stand as one fighting this war, imagine we will win this warfare in square.
Thank you, Jacinta. Human rights for all. Connecting our struggle. Human rights are not indivisible. There's no this is better than the other one. There's no this is sexier than the other one. And thank you for bringing that. I think the person who needs to tweet, quote Jacinta, we all need, human rights are very intersecting and we need to push together. Coming back to you, Carol, a question has been asked also by Agneta around the recognition by the county assembly and in terms of ensuring that how to build up what Jacinta is bringing from not working as sex worker, from not working as pussy power or human rights defender, women's human rights defender, how do you build that collective power to fight this oppressive government and structures that work against us?
Thank you. So, a journey of 1,000 months starts with only one step. The movement started working in a very hostile environment where nobody cared when we started saying that we demand for sex workers' rights. So nobody cared, what rights do you have? At that point, the sex workers did not even understand what right do we demand for. It is because we only knew there were rights that were being deprived, but we wanted those rights. So we came together as the sex workers, and the first thing we did was a needs assessment in the country, in our devolved structure. Through the needs assessment, we saw there was need for a sex workers movement organizing where we encourage sex workers from their different counties, because you in Busia, you know what you're going through as a sex worker and how it affects you. Organize in your own way at Busia County, because you are the only people who can articulate your advocacy issues. The next step is the connecting with other stakeholders within the county. What is it being done to the other human rights organizations that are within your county? There are women-led organizations that existed for so many years, but were not speaking about the gender-based violence that the sex workers were facing. But they're still working and addressing the GBV. How then do we as sex workers find ourselves in the space? It is the consistency, the perseverance, working through stigmatizing words, because these spaces you come in and you feel like leaving that space, you are already mentally disturbed. Nobody cares what you go through. People will call you names. They don't care. So we did a lot of work around ensuring that we engage people first to stop the stigmatization, especially when it comes to wording, because that is the area that we realized that was tormenting sex workers. When you call me a prostitute, I'm not a prostitute. A prostitute is someone who has sex for free. And I am having sex for money. That makes me a sex worker. So we start from a point where we started creating awareness to the communities. From there, we had the county health management teams. Then, from the county health management teams, we have the advocacy bit. Then we constituted the advocacy committees. In the advocacy committee, bring everybody on board. We need the police, we need the religious leaders, we need the commissioners of the county, we need the sex workers and other stakeholders who are like-minded, working with us. The friends of sex workers. Not everybody who is our enemy. Bring them on board. Bring on board the managers, the boda riders, and let them understand what you are doing. It has taken us a decade of our advocacy for us to be recognized. So advocacy is something that you need to do persistently, something that you need to do radically. You don't have to say that because I did it last month, they did not listen to me, I'm not doing it this month. Ensure that you are connected into each and every advocacy space. Again, not working in silos. When people are working around education, stop saying that you're working for the sex workers' right. Sex workers need to be educated too. We need to get the knowledge for us to understand. We are coming from a point where sex workers were being economically violated and nobody spoke about it because men saw that it was right for them to come for you, negotiate, have sex with you, and not pay you. That is an economic violence that we needed to address. So we need sex workers to get the education for them to understand it. Sorry.
We can preach and preach. Pussy power. Pussy power. I hope you are getting it, yeah? I know we want to speak and have this conversation, but I know also because of time, we can still have it because also we have another panel coming up.
Okay.
So maybe I'll go to Breya, but I like the way, Caro, you're bringing the aspect of interlinking struggle, and that also we need to see violence from different point of view, and it's political. Personal, it's political. Yeah, personal, it's political.
Political.
Breya, a minute, please.
Yeah. Am I answering the
Yes,
question? Okay.
any
so
of the questions.
it's a really complicated question. It would be its own panel to answer it, but the ultimate answer is it's about control, right? And so what we need to understand about imperialism that the U.S. does in Africa is that it's not just war and soldiers, right? Imperialism looks very different, and one of the interventions that the U.S. makes is a health one, right? It's missionary work. It's getting involved in your education, right? It's funding your NGOs, right? All of that doesn't just happen because Americans are well-meaning people and they care. No, it's about control. It's about expansion. It's about having a say in what goes on the continent because the United States government thinks the whole entire world is their business. And that's why we have to understand that when it comes to how they fund repo rights in Africa specifically, it's not just for our liberation, right? They have a very strategic goal that's not always in our favor. But on the continent, for Black women, they realize that if we control our bodily autonomy and we decide when we have a family, that means that we were elevating in class, and they didn't like that. So it's all about the government being able to decide when, where, and how we can have families and children, who can have it and who can't, when and where, all of those things, right? That's the simplest answer. It's all about control. You can only have a baby in this context, or you can't have it in this one. And the United States policies reflect that. And someone asked the question about, like, what do we do in terms of access to safe abortion? I don't know what access to the abortion pill in Kenya looks like, but I do know that that's something in the United States that as organizers we need to be advocating for, right? I'm an abortion doula. I train people how to have an abortion in the comfort of their own home. And so how do we expand that knowledge, right? How do we teach people when they're ovulating? How do we teach people how to actually use contraception? And how do we teach people how to use the abortion pill, right? How do we expand our access and our decision making and our self-determination? That's the type of work that we need to be doing. I want us to be so autonomous that we don't need the patriarchs. We don't need their resources. We don't need them. We have everything that we need. That is the goal that I see.
Thank you, Breya. But also like something maybe I need to bring into attention in terms of also the work we do as Coalition for Grassroots in terms of class and what you're bringing to. To be honest, for us, self-care doesn't work for grassroots women. Because the fact that health, it needs to be a public health, a public good, and it's not a public good. And Lillian and the rest can tell you our experience that because of lacking it as a public good, you find that you get pregnant and then because also the services are not there to help you get the service, and then you have not gone to be also to understand also how long is the period for like the term for the pregnancy. So lacking that money and that quote unquote luxury or privilege, and also you want to get rid of the pregnancy. Many women end up using the pills, and then when you start having complications, because also there's a way you need to take the pill.
Yeah.
When you start having complications and then you don't get enough support, you end up losing the women. And that's why for us, also as grassroots community, we advocate that it should be a public good in public hospital before self-care. But also we get to the point that also it should be done individually. But where we come from for grassroots women, they can tell you, we are advocating to be a public good first before we start doing it the self-care way. Because, and they can say, but also I know the last question, I know, but what we say is that services should be available to every women and gender-conforming people to access this kind of services, for sexual reproductive health and rights. But I know also we have been working on GBV cases, all of us in this space, where I know also CGHRD and also Slim and the team leading in terms of the localization agenda of the resources and funding. And everybody in this team was saying, hey, we deserve funding, we deserve funding. Decolonize funding. Funding is meant for high-end NGO, not grassroots NGO. If I may ask you, the three of you here, and having an audience that says we are tired of being romanticized volunteer, and not being paid. We are tired of romanticizing poverty activism. We are tired of romanticizing feminist base of not respecting young feminist labor and staff time and well-being, and at the same time, healing process. We are from talking healing. What does healing look for grassroots activists when you don't have even money to pay rent, example? What does healing look for a grassroots organizer, or even not having money to see that gynecologist who is also being privatized in Kenya, when also matters of sexual reproductive health and rights is not in there, even NHIF. So if I may ask you, Jacinta, what is this one message? I know you people, and I'm telling you 1 minute, we want to talk and talk. What is this one message that you want to tell donors to do and not do when it comes to funding grassroots organizer? If they are coming in as equal partner, what is that one message you want to tell them?
For me, what I will tell them, they come and fund our own structure. They don't come with their own structure because they don't know the reality at the grassroots level. Even when I was in Europe, I was always telling them like that. Don't come with your own structure. We already have our own. We have been working without their money. They come and fund the already existing structure.
Thank you, Jacinta. Carol?
Investing in community means that you support the communities directly. It does not mean that you support someone else to engage the communities. It is support me as a sex worker, for I know where the shoe pinches me. I know what advocacy I want to drive. Invest in funding community-led organizing for the communities to drive the advocacy that they know best fits them.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, no claps. Pussy power. Power. Breya, what does it mean also for you working also in the US and also in the grassroots, the US and local community, and you want to connect with us, folks here, and not only just you learning from us, but also us want to learn from you and you learning from us. How would you tell the funders?
Now, you know, I brought you in spaces and I said, you will pay her. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And like, when there's an imbalance in power and you're coming from the US, you will pay. and I stay there every single time. For you, for Mary Elise, for anybody else, you will pay. But I think we need to tell funders, you fund the vision that the community has for themselves. You don't fund your vision for the world, right? Just because you fund us does not mean we work for you. That's really important.
Jacinta, want to add something, eh?
Can I add something else? And they stopped telling us to have system and structures. We have been dealing without system and structure.
Okay.
We have been having the money and accounting for that money. They stop asking for finance officer, finance manager, program officer, assistant program officer. They stopped doing that. Because when we go to that way, there is when we lose our own vision.
Yes.
That's why we're having this many programs.
Can you clap for my panel? I feel like I wanted to sit on this other side than here. And I acknowledge this, and I would really like to thank our panel for being authentic, honest, and raw, because these are the conversations. So it's also back to the audience. Any space you occupy, please pass these messages, okay? I know reports, we complain about it, yeah? Our reports are here in people's hearts, yeah, where the change are happening. So let's continue challenging this way of also funding, and also appreciate that we have our own lived experience. Let's document our own story the way we are documenting it here. So for this one, I'd like to give a round of applause to Jacinta, Agunja, to Caroline, to Breya. And this panel was being hosted by Swaiba Podcast in partnership with Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defenders, Pussy Power 2022.